The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. What happened? Recently, Gun Media announced that they're sunsetting the game, and obviously the community hasn't been taking it very well. I think we all saw that this game was kind of trending downwards, but I think it still caught a lot of us by surprise at how quickly they decided to do this. I personally thought that this game something like this wasn't gonna get announced until like next year. I figured they would drop at least another map, another pair of characters, another victim, another family, and then a bunch of cosmetics at least. I figured they would do something like that. Some clothes. I think the content pack, a lot of people, I didn't buy, but a lot of people were expecting like the hair pack and I guess some other cosmetics. But yeah, it just happened a lot sooner than I figured it would. And then their statement was not very good at all. It was pretty overall just like kind of like self-glazing and a tad bit disrespectful. I'm not going to get into the whole statement. Plenty of people have already done that. But what I will point out is one thing they said: we feel that we have seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre fully realized. That is just nonsense, and they gotta know that's nonsense. Like they didn't even add like all the stuff. There's been leaks about things that they were going to do that they didn't do. So like they did not fully realize the own things that they were talking about. Beyond the statement, it's really a shame. The way the game launched, I think, is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about some of the earlier issues in this game and how this could have been prevented. And I think the devs, like, the biggest mistake they made was in the very beginning. They should have done things quite differently. And I think just one small change would have made a big difference. First of all, I want to acknowledge that these are some old clips. Anybody that's been playing TCM and is still playing TCM is going to be able to tell that these are some pretty old clips. The reason for that is initially I wanted to be a TCM content creator, and so I had a lot of clips saved up. But I've been kind of busier than I thought I would be, and also like a lot of stuff has changed with the game, like my opinion of the game since some of these clips. Now, I am level 99. I have all the base characters leveled up. I didn't buy any of the new characters. I never paid for any extra DLC. I never paid for any content, and I'm glad I didn't. But I am level 99, and I have all the family and all the victim leveled up. I was a victim main in the beginning, and I became more of a family main, I would say, right before Danny and Nancy came out. And then I just started playing quick play a lot after that. And after I leveled everyone up, I just played nothing but quick play. But now, near the end, I started playing victim again. And I'll get into that. But yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge, I wanted to throw it out there before anyone tries to accuse me of being like a victim main. I played quick play, and I was a victim main, but I've played plenty of family, and I acknowledge the issues that family had. And in the beginning, I didn't think the family had like as big of issues as they were complaining about. I realized they kind of did. They really did, but I still think there was some issues in the community that I'll also speak on later in the video. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way. I'm just using these older clips. I have a TikTok that can back me up what I'm saying, and it's got like my family clips in there, and you'll see that I am indeed level 99. But anyways, I want to talk about the two things I think Gun really messed up with at the beginning. So I do think Gun made a couple mistakes, but I think their two biggest mistakes was, first of all, saying that this game wasn't competitive. This was one of the most competitive ASIM games I've ever played. Maybe the most competitive ASIM game I've ever played. It's very hard. This game is hard for both sides, for victims and family. This is a hard game. I'll admit that it's slightly harder for the family, in the sense that the family has to be more disciplined. They kind of have to like be a little bit stricter with how they play. Patrolling's a big deal. They need to know their roles, know what they're doing. The victims have a little bit more freedom when it comes to this. Their play style's a little bit more laxed, but overall it's hard for everyone. So I get that they didn't want to like harbor a certain community or whatever. Like, they didn't want it to be toxic, which it ended up happening anyways. But like, I kind of get what they were going, but they shouldn't have lied. They should have said, this is a hard game. This is a competitive game, and so everyone could have just at least been ready. Now, the biggest mistake I think Gun made was launching this game with the customization type that they had. They should have had preset loadouts. Like, I get the perks are fine, but you shouldn't have been able to customize like the strength and endurance and the savagery and all that stuff. I think that was a mistake. I think they should have just had set skills for set players, for set characters. I think this would have made things a lot less complicated, and it would have made it harder for players to abuse certain mechanics, and also for other new players. New players have such a hard time. They got to play catch up with all the older OG players who have their savagery and all their endurance and all that stuff just leveled up to the max. And so they're playing against, like, not only do these people have more experience and understand the map and how to play, but literally they're just better. Like, their characters, even if you pick the same characters, like, yours is better if you've been playing longer. And so, like, the new players are always going to be trying to play catch up, and that is a tough position to be in as a new player. It was in the beginning, it was pretty hard, even though everyone was on a level playing field. It was really tough. It was really confusing. Now I can't even imagine, because I've been playing since the beginning, since this game launched. I was there launch day. I couldn't imagine trying to jump in now. It would be insane. Like I said, it was a hard time then. Now it's gotta feel impossible. It's gotta just be demoralizing. Like, if you're family, you don't even see victims, and when you do, like, they just outclass you. And then if you're a victim, you don't know where you're going. You're terrified. You probably don't even make it out of the basement. And like, a lot of people just give up, and I really don't blame them. I want to talk about Rush Week for a minute, because Rush Week is actually what got me really thinking about the preset loadouts. So Rush Week, no one really asked for Rush Week, and I'll always be of the opinion that Rush Week should have been like a standalone game, maybe not even TCM related, and I think it would have been way better. It would have been a lot cooler that way. They should have just put all their focus into the main game. But one thing that I feel like worked for Rush Week, as far as just getting people to just play and kind of accept the play style, is the preset loadouts. And it just made it a lot easier to manage for the players and the devs. And I think that's overall that would have helped in the main game if the characters would have just had preset loadouts. Like, there should have been just certain expectations, like, most of the guys are the ones that are going to be able to beat the family members, like Johnny. Connie shouldn't have been. The fact that you can like kind of dump strength into Connie and then she can win a grapple with Johnny, it's just silly. And it's ridiculous considering that Connie can already, she's got that ability, that the lockpick ability, where she can just instant open a lock. So it would have been, I think, a smarter move with the preset loadouts. And again, like I said, Rush Week shouldn't have really been in the game, but I do like the idea of Rush Week. But it's just like, you can just tell, like, it's just like a mess. It's like, why did they throw this in the game? And then that's another thing that they promised more on and never delivered on. They, I guess they did this lights out thing right before they decided to sunset the game. There's like the game mode where it's like the same sorority house but it's dark, but it's silly. It was a waste of time. Should have been, like I said, a standalone game. Rush Week would have been cool, but I do like the idea of the preset loadouts. I think that would have been a dramatic difference to this game as far as like things feeling more equal and balanced. It would have just helped tremendously with the balance of the game. Now I want to talk about the problems with the community for a minute. I know a lot of people aren't going to want to hear this, but I do think the community kind of contributed to the hostility. I think the family mains you guys complained a lot. I started out as a victim main, but I played family, and I played it before all the crazy nerfs to the victims, and the game was still winnable as family, and a lot of people who played family pretended as though the game was just completely unwinnable in the state it was in the beginning, and that's just not the case. That was not true. A lot of people thought Leatherface was the worst family member, and it's because they didn't know how to use him. Leatherface is unique. He controls differently than everyone else. The family members and the victims almost all have like kind of similar controls compared to Leatherface. He has the most dynamic controlling in the game, so he was hard to use. But once you figured out how to use him, he was great. And so there was just a lot of stuff like that, and then the victims got nerfed into the ground, so the victims became less fun to use. They should have just been increasing the family members, making them stronger instead of making the victims weaker. And again, like, this goes back to the preset load. I think that would have helped a lot with that. I get that they did the Danny issue and then the Hands issue, and then I feel like the devs were just playing catch up constantly. They tried to appease the family members. The family mains couldn't be appeased. They were still salty after everything. And then I think that it just made the devs salty, and they started bickering with community members on Reddit and stuff, and that's not a good look. But I do think the community kind of contributed to that a lot. So my final thoughts are that of just mostly sadness and disappointment. This game had so much potential. It's the definition of wasted potential, and although I think it didn't launch the way it should have launched to keep it going for a long time, there was things they could have done to increase the longevity, and they just did not. There was also a lot of just like blatant money grabs, like the cosmetics, and they said something early on in the game when something to the effect of, if the longevity of the game depends on the money you guys spent, and that when they said that really put me off. And just, I had a bad feeling ever since then, and it made me definitely not want to spend the money, especially they did that back when there was like crazy glitches to the game. And even now, like, there's a lot of wonky mechanics. It's slow. There's a lot of sluggish, slow responses when you're opening doors, picking items up. You'll be looking at something and go to pick up one item or do something, and your character will just reach way out of the way and grab something else off screen. There was all kinds of stuff that they needed to worry about before they worried about emptying my pockets. But beyond that, like I said, it's not all them. I think the player base also contributed to a lot of the animosity. I think we got hostile real quick. I remember the people were sending the devs like death threats or something on Christmas. It was just terrible. Well, that's all I really have to say about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. It was fun while it lasted, and it's unfortunate that it didn't last very long. Here we are, not even 2 years later, and it's wrapping up. And it's a real bummer. I don't hate Gunn, and I do think the community was a little bit more hostile than needed, and I think yeah, they're a company and they're supposed to be professional, but we're only human, you know. Um, that being said, I do hope that they learned a lot from this and that they do better. There's rumors out there that they are going to be doing a remake or a remaster of Friday the 13th, and that would be great. That was my favorite ASIM horror, and I'll be there for that game for sure. But we'll see what happens.